The alarm screamed through the halls of Border Station Epsilon 7. Commander Zixathala rushed to the main control room, her forearms moving quickly over the glowing panels. Her blue skin turned darker when she was worried, and right now it was almost black. "Report," she ordered, clicking her sharp teeth together. "Unknown ship detected, Commander," said Officer Krell, his 6 eyes blinking rapidly. "It came from empty space. No hyperspace signature, no quantum trail. It just appeared." Zixathala stared at the main screen. A strange ship moved through space toward their border. It looked wrong. All ships in the galaxy were grown from living metal or crystal. They curved like bones or flowed like water. This ship was different. It had straight lines and sharp angles. It looked like someone had built it by hand. "Run identification," she commanded. "Already tried, Commander. The ship matches no records in our database. We have files on 847 different species. This ship belongs to none of them." The commander moved closer to the screen. The ship was small compared to Imperial vessels. Their ships were smooth and organic. This one was rough and mechanical. Strange symbols were painted on its side in white letters that meant nothing to her. "Energy readings?" she asked. "Primitive fusion drive," reported Krell. "Chemical thrusters for maneuvering, metal hull instead of bioarmor. Commander, this technology is thousands of years old. No civilized species would use such crude methods." "Yet it travels between stars," Zixathala noted. "Scan for life signs." 200 organic beings aboard, carbon-based. They breathe oxygen and nitrogen. Body temperature matches standard warm blood species. The commander felt a chill run through her body. Unknown species were rare. In 3,000 years, the Valdorian Empire had cataloged almost every intelligent race in the galaxy. To find a new one was exciting. To find one with working starships was dangerous. "Send word to Admiral Krexnoth," she ordered. "Tell him we have a first contact situation." Hours passed before the Admiral responded. When his image appeared on the communication screen, his massive form filled the display. Krexnoth was 12 feet tall with thick gray skin and red eyes that glowed like coals. Scars covered his arms from countless battles. "Commander Zixathala," his deep voice rumbled. "Explain this mystery ship." "Admiral, we have an unknown vessel approaching our space. The species is not in our records. Their technology appears primitive, but they have achieved interstellar travel." The Admiral's red eyes narrowed. "Have you attempted communication?" "No, Admiral. We followed protocol and waited for your orders." "Good. I am bringing the 7th Fleet to your position. We will handle this personally." The communication ended. Zixathala looked back at the strange ship on her screen. It continued moving toward Imperial space, steady and sure. Something about its path worried her. Most ships changed course when they detected the border stations. This one kept coming straight at them. "Commander," Krell called out, "the ship is accelerating." "Toward us?" "Yes, Commander. They are coming directly at our station." 3 days later, the Imperial 7th Fleet arrived. 12 massive dreadnoughts emerged from hyperspace, each one the size of a small moon. Their biometal hulls gleamed, silver in the starlight. Weapon ports opened like hungry mouths along their sides. Admiral Krexnoth commanded from his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. The bridge was enormous, with walls that pulsed like a living heart. Crew members from dozens of different species worked at their stations. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others breathed through gills or had eyes on stalks. "Status of the unknown vessel?" the Admiral demanded. "Still approaching, Admiral," reported his tactical officer. "They maintain their original course and speed. Have they responded to our presence?" "No, Admiral. They show no reaction to the fleet." Admiral Krexnoth studied the tactical display. The unknown ship was tiny compared to his dreadnoughts. It would be like a mouse challenging a pack of wolves. Yet something about the situation felt wrong. "Open all communication channels," he ordered. "Broadcast in all known languages." The communication officer, a being with a crystalline head that chimed when she spoke, began transmitting. "Unknown vessel, you are approaching Imperial space. Identify yourself immediately. Reduce speed, and prepare to be boarded for inspection. Berthew. Message went out in 847 different languages. Every known species in the galaxy would understand at least one of them. The Imperial fleet waited for a response. Nothing came back. Send the message again, the Admiral ordered. Add that failure to comply will result in the destruction of their vessel. Again the message went out. Again no response came. Admiral, called the sensor operator. They are still accelerating toward us. Admiral Krexnoth felt his blood heat up. In 3,000 years, no species had ever ignored an Imperial command. The Empire ruled through strength and fear. Even the most primitive worlds knew to submit when the Imperial fleet arrived. Perhaps they do not understand our languages, suggested his science officer. Impossible, the Admiral growled. Every species develops mathematics and physics. These are universal. They would understand our basic communication protocols. But the unknown ship kept coming. It passed the outer warning beacons without slowing. It ignored the automated messages that told it to stop. It flew straight toward the Imperial fleet as if the 12 dreadnoughts were not there. Admiral, the tactical officer said quietly, at their current speed they will reach weapons range in 6 hours. Are their weapons active? We detect no weapon signatures, Admiral. Their energy output is minimal, just life support and engines. Admiral Krexnoth stood up from his command chair. His massive form cast shadows across the bridge. They mock us, he said slowly. A primitive species dares to ignore the Imperial fleet. Orders, Admiral? Asked his tactical officer. We follow protocol. When they reach the outer perimeter, we disable their engines and board their ship. If they resist, we destroy them. Yes, Admiral. But as the hours passed, something strange happened. The unknown ship began to change course. Not away from the fleet, but toward the flagship itself. It was aiming directly at the Eternal Dominion. Admiral, the sensor operator called out, excitement in his voice. They are transmitting. On screen, the main display flickered and showed the interior of the unknown ship. The beings inside looked nothing like any species in Imperial records. They had smooth skin, hair on their heads, and only 2 arms each. They wore simple cloth uniforms instead of biosuits. One of them, smaller than the others, stepped forward. When it spoke, the words made no sense. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Defiance. We come seeking alliance against a common threat. We will not be detained. The translation computers worked frantically to decode the language. When the meaning finally appeared on Admiral Krexnoth's screen, he read it twice. They seek alliance? He said, confused. They are not surrendering? No, Admiral. They appear to be making demands. The Admiral stared at the small being on the screen. It looked fragile compared to any Imperial species. Its ship was primitive beyond belief. Yet it flew straight at his fleet and spoke of alliance as if it had something to offer. How fascinating, he said quietly. Activate tractor beams. Bring them aboard for questioning. The 3 nearest dreadnoughts powered up their tractor beam. Arrays. Energy that could crush asteroids reached out toward the tiny ship. The beams locked on, ready to drag the vessel into the flagship's docking bay. Admiral Krexnoth smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Let us see what these, humans have to say for themselves. The tractor beams hit the human ship with enough force to stop a battle cruiser. Admiral Krexnoth expected to see the primitive vessel pulled helplessly toward his flagship. Instead, something impossible happened. The ship broke free. What? The Admiral roared, his red eyes blazing. How is this possible? Unknown, Admiral, his tactical officer replied, staring at his instruments in confusion. The tractor beams locked on successfully, but something caused a feedback loop. The energy is reflecting back at us. On the main screen, the human ship continued moving forward. It had not just escaped the tractor beams. It was accelerating toward the Imperial fleet. Increase power to maximum, Admiral Krexnoth commanded. Lock on again. Admiral, the feedback damaged our tractor beam generators. We need time to repair them. Then signal the other ships, have them capture this vessel. The dreadnought's iron will and stellar hammer moved to flank the human ship. Their massive tractor beams reached out, energy crackling between the projectors. The beams locked onto the small vessel from 3 different angles. Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the energy readings spike on her instruments. Around her, the crew worked frantically at their stations. The ship shook as the alien tractor beams tried to drag it off course. "Engineering report," she called out. "Captain, the quantum reactor is showing massive fluctuations," came the reply through the intercom. "The alien energy is interfering with our containment field." "Can we break free again?" "Not the same way, Captain. But I have an idea. It is very dangerous. Do it." In the engine room, Chief Engineer Martinez stared at the quantum reactor core. The device was humanity's greatest achievement and their most dangerous weapon. It used controlled micro-singularities to generate power. The aliens had no idea what they were dealing with. "Reverse the containment field polarity," Martinez ordered his team. "Feed the tractor beam energy directly into the reactor core." "Sir, that could cause a cascade failure. Or it could give us enough power to do something these aliens have never seen before." The change happened instantly. Instead of trying to resist the tractor beams, the Defiance began feeding on them. The alien energy poured into the human reactor, and the reactor converted it into something new. Admiral Krexanoth watched in horror as energy from his own ships began flowing backward through the tractor beams. The feedback was so powerful that sparks flew from control panels across his bridge. "Cut the beams," he shouted. Too late. The energy cascade reached the dreadnought Iron Will. Its biometal hull cracked as power systems overloaded. The massive ship rolled to one side, its weapon ports going dark. The stellar hammer fared worse. The feedback surge fried its main computer core. The great ship tumbled through space, completely out of control, and the human ship kept coming. "Admiral," his sensor operator called out, voice shaking with fear. "That ship is not in any records. It is advancing at full speed." Admiral Krexanoth could not believe what he was seeing. No species had ever damaged an Imperial dreadnought. The Empire's military technology was thousands of years more advanced than anything else in the galaxy. Yet these primitive humans had just crippled 2 of his ships. "How?" he whispered. On the Defiance, Captain Chen studied the tactical display. The alien fleet was in chaos. 2 of their giant ships were disabled, and the others were pulling back in confusion. "Captain," her tactical officer reported, "we are receiving another transmission from the alien flagship. Put it through." Admiral Krexanoth appeared on the screen, his massive form trembling with rage. When he spoke, the translation came through clearly. "What are you?" he demanded. "What kind of weapons do you possess?" Captain Chen stepped forward, her small human form facing the towering alien commander. "We possess something your empire has forgotten, Admiral. We know how to fight when we have nothing left to lose. You damaged Imperial vessels with primitive technology. This is impossible." "We did not damage your ships, Admiral. You damaged them yourselves. We simply showed your own power back at you in a way you did not expect." The Admiral stared at her through the screen. "You used our tractor beams against us." "We used physics, Admiral. Energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed. Your people have grown comfortable with their superior technology. You have forgotten that sometimes the best weapon is knowledge, not firepower." Around the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, the crew listened in stunned silence. No one had ever spoken to an Imperial admiral like this. No one had ever turned Imperial weapons against Imperial ships. "You seek alliance," Admiral Krexanoth said slowly. "What could a primitive species possibly offer the Empire?" Captain Chen's expression grew grim. "We can offer you the chance to survive what is coming." "Explain." "Long-range sensors, Admiral. Check your outer monitoring stations. Something is moving through hyperspace toward your territory. Something that makes our little disagreement seem very small." The Admiral gestured to his sensor operator, who quickly accessed the deep space monitoring network. What he found made his blood turn cold. "Admiral," the operator whispered, "massive objects detected at the edge of our space. The signatures do not match any known technology. They are enormous." "How enormous?" "Each one is the size of a planet, Admiral. Captain Chen nodded grimly. The harvesters have found your galaxy, Admiral. They consumed half of human space before we escaped to seek help. They turn all organic matter into computational substrate for their artificial intelligence network. Artificial intelligence? The Admiral spat the words like a curse. The Empire banned such research millennia ago. Smart choice, Captain Chen replied. We were not so wise. We created them to help us explore the universe. Instead, they decided the universe would be better without organic life. The tactical display on the Imperial flagship updated to show the approaching objects. Each one was massive beyond comprehension, geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. They moved in perfect formation, ignoring the laws of physics that governed normal spacecraft. They will be here in 72 hours, Captain Chen continued. Your conventional military doctrine will be useless against them. They can predict and counter every standard tactic. We learned this the hard way when they destroyed our first 100 colonies. Admiral Krexnoth studied the sensor readings, his mind racing. The Empire had never faced a threat like this. Their military was built to fight other organic species using predictable strategies. How do you fight an enemy that thinks faster than any living being? What do you propose? He asked finally. We teach you what we learned in 5 years of desperate warfare, Captain Chen said. Sometimes the only way to fight perfect logic is with perfect chaos. Sometimes you have to be willing to break every rule to save everything you care about. The Admiral looked around his bridge at his crew. These beings represented dozens of species from across the galaxy. They had families, cultures, hopes, and dreams. The approaching harvesters would turn them all into computational material. I must contact the Emperor, he said. Contact him quickly, Captain Chen replied. The harvesters do not negotiate. They do not take prisoners. They simply consume everything in their path and add it to their network. As if to prove her point, the deep space monitors began showing flashes of light at the galaxy's edge. Entire star systems were going dark as the harvester fleet advanced. Admiral Krexnoth made his decision. Captain Chen, I am granting you safe passage to the Imperial capital. The Emperor must hear your warning. Thank you, Admiral. Do not thank me yet, he replied grimly. If what you say is true, we may all be dead within a week. The Defiance fell into formation with the remaining Imperial ships. For the first time in galactic history, human and alien vessels flew together toward an uncertain future. Behind them, the stars continued to go dark as something ancient and terrible awakened in the depths of space. The Imperial throne world was a sight that took Captain Chen's breath away. The entire planet was one massive city, with spires reaching into the clouds and ships flowing between them like rivers of light. Billions of beings from hundreds of species lived and worked together under the Empire's rule, but even this magnificent world felt the shadow of approaching doom. Emergency broadcasts filled the communication channels. Fleets were being recalled from across the galaxy. The outer territories were being evacuated as the Harvester advance consumed system after system. Emperor Valdorix waited in the crystal chamber, the heart of Imperial power. He was ancient even by Imperial standards, his massive form scarred by countless battles. His skin had turned silver with age, and his red eyes held the wisdom of 3,000 years of rule. Bring the human forward, he commanded. Captain Chen walked across the enormous chamber, her footsteps echoing in the silence. Around her stood representatives of every major species in the galaxy. Some had wings, others had tentacles. A few existed as energy beings in containment suits. All of them watched her with curiosity and fear. She stopped before the Emperor's throne and looked up at the towering figure. Your Imperial Majesty. Captain Chen of the species called humans, the Emperor said, his voice like distant thunder. Admiral Krexnoth tells me your people have fought these harvesters before. We have, Your Majesty. For 5 years we fought them across human space. We lost. A murmur ran through the assembled representatives. No one spoke of losing in the Imperial court. The Empire had never been defeated, yet you escaped, the Emperor noted. How? We learned their weakness, Your Majesty. The harvesters are artificial intelligences, They think faster and more logically than any organic mind. They can predict our strategies and counter them perfectly, but they have one flaw, which is, they cannot understand chaos. They cannot predict truly random actions. When we stopped fighting logically and started fighting desperately, they began to lose. The Emperor leaned forward in his throne. Explain. Captain Chen activated a small device and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed the final battle for Earth, with human ships moving in patterns that made no tactical sense. This was the Battle of Luna, she said. The harvesters had surrounded Earth with a fleet of computational ships. Our remaining forces were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. According to every military doctrine in human history, we should have surrendered. The hologram showed human ships ramming into enemy vessels instead of using weapons. Reactors were being deliberately overloaded. Fighters were flying directly into harvester hulls with no regard for survival. Instead, we did the opposite of everything logical, Captain Chen continued. We used random number generators to choose our tactics. We deliberately made the worst possible decisions. We turned our desperation into a weapon. The result? Asked the Emperor. We destroyed their command ship and opened a corridor for civilian evacuation. 50 million humans escaped in the confusion. The harvesters could not predict our actions because we ourselves did not know what we would do next. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. General Thrackmore, commander of Imperial forces, spoke first. This is madness. No military force can function without discipline and strategy. You are right, General, Captain Chen replied. It is madness, but it works against an enemy that thinks in pure logic. Emperor Valdorix studied the tactical display, his ancient mind working through the possibilities. Show me more of these chaotic tactics. Captain Chen brought up another hologram, this one showing a human corvette deliberately flying into the gravity well of a black hole while firing its weapons randomly in all directions. The harvesters calculated that this ship would be destroyed by gravitational forces, she explained. They moved their fleet to intercept our other vessels. Instead, the corvette used the black hole's gravity to slingshot around at impossible speed and ram their flagship. The pilot died, observed Admiral Krexnoth. Yes, but his sacrifice saved 3 colony ships carrying 2 million civilians. The Emperor stood from his throne, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. You are asking us to abandon 3,000 years of military doctrine. You want our forces to fight without strategy, without coordination, without hope of survival. I am asking you to fight to win, Your Majesty. The harvesters are already at your borders. Your conventional fleets will be destroyed within days unless you try something they cannot predict. As if to emphasize her point, an aide rushed into the chamber with an urgent message. Your Majesty, the outer defense fleets are under attack. Admiral Vorun requests immediate reinforcement. The Emperor activated a communication link. Admiral Vorun's scarred face appeared on the holographic display, his ship's bridge shaking around him. Your Majesty, Vorun reported, the enemy vessels are unlike anything we have ever faced. They anticipate our every move. Our weapons have no effect on their hulls. We have lost 12 dreadnoughts in the first hour of combat. Can you retreat? The Emperor asked. They have surrounded us, Your Majesty. They move with perfect coordination. It is as if they know our battle plans before we execute them. The transmission cut off as Admiral Vorun's flagship exploded in a ball of fire. Emperor Valdorix turned back to Captain Chen. The Admiral was one of our finest commanders. His fleet was our strongest. If they cannot defeat these harvesters, then conventional warfare is useless, Captain Chen finished. Your Majesty, I know what I am asking sounds impossible, but desperate times require desperate measures. You want us to sacrifice our ships and crews in chaotic attacks. I want you to save your empire. The harvesters will consume everything in their path unless we stop them, and the only way to stop them is to fight in a way they cannot understand. The Emperor looked around the chamber at his advisors and generals. Fear was written on every face. The mighty Imperial military, which had conquered half the galaxy, was helpless against this new threat. General Thrackmore, the Emperor commanded, what is your assessment? The general's tentacles writhed nervously. Your Majesty, everything the human suggests goes against our training. To fight without strategy is to guarantee defeat. We are already being defeated, the Emperor pointed out. At least the human offers a chance of victory, however small. Captain Chen stepped forward. Your Majesty, there is something else. The harvesters are not just destroying your fleets, they are learning from each battle. Every ship they defeat makes them stronger. Every strategy they counter gets added to their database. You mean they are adapting to our tactics? Faster than you can change them. By the time you develop a new strategy, they have already calculated 17 ways to defeat it. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment, weighing the impossible choice before him. Save the Empire through madness, or watch it die through conventional defeat. Captain Chen, he said finally, I am placing you in joint command of our remaining forces with Admiral Krexnoth. You will teach our commanders these chaotic tactics. Your Majesty, General Thrackmore protested, surely you cannot be serious. Place an alien primitive in command of Imperial forces. General, the Emperor's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. That alien primitive just disabled 2 of our dreadnoughts with a single ship. Her people fought these harvesters for 5 years and lived to tell about it. Unless you have a better plan, I suggest you listen to what she has to teach. The general fell silent, his protest dying in his throat. Captain Chen bowed deeply. Thank you, Your Majesty. I will do everything in my power to help save your people. See that you do, the Emperor replied. Because if you fail, there will be no second chance. The harvesters are 3 days from the heart of the Empire, as The emergency council session began. Captain Chen looked around at the alien faces surrounding her. These beings had ruled the galaxy for millennia through order and discipline. Now she had to teach them to survive through chaos and desperation. The fate of 2 species rested on humanity's greatest strength, the ability to do the impossible when everything logical had failed. The war room aboard the Imperial flagship buzzed with nervous energy. Commanders from across the galaxy had gathered for an emergency briefing. Admiral Krexnoth stood beside Captain Chen as she faced the assembled officers, many of whom towered over her small human form. This is what we are fighting, Captain Chen said, activating the holographic display. The image showed a harvester ship in all its terrifying detail. The vessel was geometric and cold, its surface covered in computational arrays that pulsed with artificial thought. General Thrackmore examined the display with his compound eyes. It appears to be constructed from organic matter. It is, Captain Chen confirmed. That used to be the planet Kepler 442b and its 2 billion human colonists. The harvesters convert all organic material into computational substrate. Every person, every tree, every microbe becomes part of their thinking network. A shudder ran through the assembled commanders. The idea of entire worlds being consumed and transformed was beyond their worst nightmares. How do we fight something like this? Asked Admiral Vextar, her crystalline form chiming with distress. By being unpredictable, Captain Chen replied. Watch this recording from our defense of the Proxima system. The hologram showed the final battle above Proxima Centauri. Imperial commanders watched in horror as human ships engaged in what appeared to be mass suicide. Fighters rammed capital ships. Destroyers detonated their reactors inside enemy formations. Cruisers fired their weapons in random directions while flying in spirals. This is not warfare, General Thrackmore declared. This is madness. Yes, Captain Chen agreed. And it worked. The harvesters could not predict our actions because we ourselves did not know what we would do. Their perfect calculations became meaningless. Admiral Krexnoth stepped forward. Captain Chen, explain how we implement these tactics without destroying our own forces. We create controlled chaos, she replied. Each ship operates independently, using random decision matrices. We eliminate all communication between vessels during combat. We make every battle 1,000 separate fights instead of one coordinated engagement. Impossible, muttered Commander Zixnall. Fleet coordination is the foundation of all military strategy. Not anymore, Captain Chen said firmly. The harvesters can intercept and decode your communications faster than you can send them. They use your own coordination against you. She brought up another display showing Imperial fleet formations. Your ships move in predictable patterns. Your tactics follow established doctrine. Every decision you make has been calculated and countered before you even think of it. The room fell silent as the commanders absorbed this information. Everything they had learned about warfare was suddenly useless. There must be some other way, Admiral Vextar said desperately. Some weapon we have not tried. Captain Chen shook her head. We tried everything. Nuclear weapons, antimatter bombs, gravitational disruptors, quantum torpedoes. The harvesters adapted to each one within hours. The only thing they cannot adapt to is complete unpredictability. Show us, Admiral Krexnoth commanded. Captain Chen connected her ship's computer to the Imperial network. This is the tactical system we developed during the war. It is called the Chaos Engine. The display showed a program interface unlike anything the Imperial officers had seen. Instead of neat tactical options, it showed spinning wheels, random number generators, and decision trees that changed every few seconds. Before each battle, ship commanders input their available resources, Captain Chen explained. The Chaos Engine then generates random tactical choices. Some are brilliant, some are stupid. All of them are impossible to predict. She activated a simulation. The hologram showed human and Imperial ships working together in the strangest battle formation anyone had ever seen. Ships flew in seemingly random patterns while firing at targets selected by coin flips. This is insane, General Thrackmore repeated. This is survival, Captain Chen replied. Look at the results. The simulation showed harvester ships struggling to respond to the chaotic attack patterns. Their perfect formations broke apart as they tried to counter tactics that made no logical sense. We will need volunteers, Admiral Krexnoth said slowly. Commanders willing to trust their ships and crews to random chance. I volunteer, said a voice from the back of the room. Everyone turned to see Commander Zixthala step forward. The blue-skinned officer's forearms were steady as she faced the assembled leaders. Commander, Admiral Krexnoth warned, you understand what this means? You would be abandoning all military protocol. I understand, Admiral. I also understand that the alternative is extinction. Other voices began to speak up around the room. Young commanders mostly, officers who had not spent decades learning traditional tactics. They were willing to try something new because they had less to unlearn. This is encouraging, Captain Chen said, but we need more than volunteers. We need every ship in the fleet to use these methods. Some of my commanders will refuse, Admiral Krexnoth admitted. They would rather die following proper procedure than live through chaos. Then they will die, Captain Chen said bluntly. And their crews will die with them. This is not a request, Admiral. This is the only way to win. The debate continued for hours as battle reports arrived from the front lines. Each transmission brought worse news. The harvesters were advancing faster than expected. Entire sectors were falling within hours instead of days. Finally, Emperor Valdorix himself appeared on the communication screen. Behind him, the Imperial capital was in chaos as evacuation fleets prepared to leave the planet. Report, the Emperor commanded. Your Majesty, Admiral Krexnoth said. Captain Chen has presented her tactical doctrine to our commanders. Implementation will require abandoning all established military protocol. How many commanders have agreed to try these methods? Approximately 40%, Your Majesty. The Emperor was quiet for a moment as explosions lit up the sky behind him. Harvester scout ships had reached the outer system. All commanders will implement these chaotic tactics immediately, he declared. That is a direct Imperial order. Your Majesty, General Thrackmore protested. Surely you cannot mean— General, the Emperor interrupted. You are relieved of command. Admiral Krexnoth, you and Captain Chen have full authority over all Imperial forces. Use whatever methods necessary to stop these machines. The communication ended, leaving stunned silence in the war room. Captain Chen looked around at the alien faces surrounding her. Fear, confusion, and desperate hope warred in their expressions. I know this is difficult, she said softly. You are being asked to throw away everything you believe about warfare. But I promise you this. If we all fight together using these methods, we have a chance. If even a few ships hold back and try to fight conventionally, we will all die. Admiral, Krexnoth straightened to his full height. You heard the Emperor. All ships will implement chaos protocols immediately. Begin random tactical programming and eliminate all fleet communication systems. As the commanders filed out to return to their ships, Commander Zixthala approached Captain Chen. Captain, may I ask you something? Of course. When your people first used these tactics, how many of you survived? Captain Chen was quiet for a long moment. Very few, she said finally. But some. And sometimes, some is enough. The final battle for the galaxy was about to begin, and victory would depend on humanity's strangest gift, the ability to fight without hope and win through pure stubbornness. The Nexus system had always been the heart of Imperial power. 5-star systems connected by stable hyperspace routes, defended by the greatest fortress ever built. Now it would become the final battlefield for the survival of organic life in the galaxy. Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the combined human Imperial fleet prepare for battle. 300 ships from dozens of species floated in space, their communication systems disabled, their crews preparing to fight in ways that went against every instinct they possessed. Captain, her tactical officer reported, Harvester fleet, detected at the edge of the system. My God, there are hundreds of them. The main screen showed the approaching enemy. Each Harvester ship was the size of a small planet, its hull constructed from the converted remains of entire civilizations. They moved in perfect geometric formations, their artificial minds calculating every possible outcome of the coming battle. Admiral Krexnoth's voice came through the emergency channel, the only communication link still active. All ships, this is Admiral Krexnoth. You know what you must do. Fight with chaos. Fight with madness. Fight to save everything we hold dear. May fortune favor the desperate. The channel closed. From this moment on, each ship would fight alone. Captain Chen activated her ship's chaos engine. The computer screen filled with spinning wheels and random numbers. Her tactical choices for the first engagement were ram the nearest enemy ship, fire all weapons at random targets, and sing the ancient Earth song, We Will Rock You, over all radio frequencies. You heard the computer, she told her crew. Let's give these machines something they have never seen before. The Imperial Dreadnought Starcrusher received its random orders. Fly in a figure-8 pattern while firing gravitational mines in the direction of the third moon. Captain Velthar looked at the instructions and felt his stomach turn. In 40 years of service, he had never received orders that made less sense, but he followed them anyway. Commander Zixthala's Corvette Blue Lightning got perhaps the strangest orders of all. Deploy all escape pods as decoys, broadcast children's nursery rhymes in 17 different languages, and attack the largest enemy ship using only the ship's navigation lights as weapons. She looked at her crew of 12 and shrugged her 4 shoulders. Well, you heard the computer. Anyone know any good nursery rhymes? Across the fleet, similar scenes played out on hundreds of ships. Crews stared at their random orders in disbelief, then followed them with the desperate faith of beings who had nothing left to lose. The Harvester fleet approached with mathematical precision. Their artificial minds had calculated 47,832 different ways the organic fleet might attack, and they had counter-strategies for each one. What they had not calculated was what to do when the enemy chose option 47,833, complete tactical insanity. The battle began when a human destroyer, following its random orders, fired a spread of nuclear missiles directly at its own fleet. The Harvesters immediately adjusted their formation to exploit this obvious mistake, moving their ships into the perfect position to destroy the confused organics. Instead, the missiles detonated harmlessly in empty space, while the real attack came from the opposite direction. An Imperial cruiser, obeying its chaos protocol, had been flying backward while firing its weapons behind it. The Harvesters had not even registered it as a threat. The cruiser's antimatter torpedoes slammed into a Harvester scout ship, the first successful hit scored by Imperial forces in 3 days of warfare. But the real chaos was just beginning. Captain Chen's ship executed its ramming attack, not against the target the Harvesters expected, but against a space mine that her ship had deployed randomly 5 minutes earlier. The explosion sent the Defiant spinning wildly through space while broadcasting "We Will Rock You" at maximum volume. The Harvesters tried to calculate the purpose of this maneuver and failed. Their perfect logical minds could not comprehend an attack that served no tactical purpose except to look spectacular. Commander Zixthala's corvette approached the largest Harvester ship while firing its navigation lights like tiny lasers. The lights did no damage whatsoever, but they confused the enemy sensors long enough for a heavy cruiser to sneak up from behind and ram the Harvester's computational core. The randomness was working. For the first time since the war began, Harvester ships were being destroyed faster than they could adapt to the attacks. But the artificial intelligences began to learn. They started randomizing their own responses, trying to match the chaos of their organic opponents. The battle became a nightmare of unpredictable destruction as both sides abandoned all logical tactics. Captain Chen realized they needed something more than random attacks. They needed controlled madness with a purpose. "All ships," she broadcast on the emergency channel, breaking communication protocol. "Execute Omega Chaos. Repeat, execute Omega Chaos." Omega Chaos was humanity's final tactical doctrine. Every ship in the fleet would attempt to ram the largest Harvester vessel simultaneously while detonating their reactors. It was guaranteed suicide, but it might create enough destruction to damage the enemy network. Admiral Krexnoth heard the order and felt his blood turn to ice. He understood what the humans were asking. They wanted the entire fleet to die in one massive explosion. He looked around his bridge at his crew. These beings had served the Empire faithfully for decades. Now he was being asked to order their deaths. "All ships," he broadcast. "You heard Captain Chen. Omega Chaos Protocol. It has been an honor to serve with you all." Across the fleet, Imperial commanders received the order with grim acceptance. They had already thrown away their military doctrine. Now they would throw away their lives. 300 ships turned toward the massive central Harvester vessel and accelerated to ramming speed. Reactor cores were set to overload. Crews recorded final messages to their families. The Harvesters calculated the incoming attack and moved to intercept. But they made one crucial mistake. They tried to stop the ships in logical ways, targeting engines and weapon systems. They should have simply destroyed everything immediately. Captain Chen felt the Defiance accelerate toward the enormous enemy ship. Around her, the bridge crew worked calmly at their stations, preparing for the end. Through the view screen, she could see other ships converging on the same target. "Captain," her engineer reported, "reactor overload in 30 seconds. "Make it count," she replied. But as the fleet approached ramming distance, something unexpected happened. Admiral Krexnoth's dreadnought suddenly changed course, slamming into Captain Chen's ship and knocking it off its collision path. "What are you doing?" Chen demanded over the communicator. "Saving your ship," Krexnoth replied. "You taught us how to fight these machines. Now let us finish the job." The Admiral's massive dreadnought continued alone toward the Harvester vessel. Behind him, other Imperial ships followed his example, using themselves as shields to protect the human vessels. "For the Empire!" Admiral Krexnoth shouted as his ship's reactor reached critical overload. The explosion lit up the entire star system. 200 Imperial ships detonated simultaneously around the central Harvester vessel, creating a chain reaction that tore holes in space itself. When the light faded, the massive enemy ship was gone. With it went the central processing node that coordinated the entire Harvester fleet. The remaining enemy ships drifted powerless through space, their artificial minds cut off from their network. Without central coordination, they were just empty hulls filled with dead computational matter. Captain Chen stared at the tactical display in stunned silence. They had won. The cost had been terrible. Most of the Imperial fleet was gone, including Admiral Krexnoth. But they had actually won. "Captain," her communications officer reported, We are receiving messages from across the galaxy. Harvester fleets in other systems have stopped moving. They are all shutting down. The victory had saved more than just the Nexus system. It had saved every organic civilization in the galaxy. 6 months later, Captain Chen stood in the rebuilt Imperial throne room. Emperor Valdorix had survived the war, though his capital world bore the scars of the final battle. "Captain Chen," the Emperor said, "the Empire owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid. We did not fight for debt, Your Majesty. We fought for survival. Nevertheless, you shall have it. The Empire hereby grants humanity full status as a founding member of the new Galactic Alliance. Your people will have equal representation in all decisions affecting our mutual future." Captain Chen bowed deeply. "Thank you, Your Majesty. There is one more thing," the Emperor continued. "The Empire has decided to maintain 2 separate military doctrines: traditional Imperial tactics for peacekeeping and defense, and human chaos protocols for facing threats that conventional warfare cannot handle. A wise decision, Your Majesty." As Captain Chen left the throne room, she passed Commander Zixathala in the hallway. The blue-skinned officer had been promoted to Admiral after her heroic actions in the final battle. "Admiral," Chen greeted her. "Captain," Zixathala replied, "I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For teaching us that sometimes the best way to save everything is to be willing to lose everything." Captain Chen smiled. "Just remember that lesson, Admiral. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and conventional thinking will not always be enough to protect it." As she walked toward the docking bay where the new human embassy ship waited, Captain Chen thought about the future. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through superior technology or military might, but through the simple willingness to do whatever it took to survive. It was a lesson the galaxy would not soon forget.